Namaskara, good morning, and welcome to everyone who's joined us again. This is the second day in a row, and welcome to Swadharma Talks. My name is Rotarian Sandeep Ori, and you're wondering what I'm doing here because the speaker's name, as you must have seen, showed up as Rotarian Ramkumar Seshu. Well, yes, he is the speaker. I'm here just to kick things off, make sure that you get all the technology right. Uh, I'm basically an entrepreneur and everything to do with technology as far as work is concerned. I have been a Rotarian for many years now and fortunately came across here in Bangalore to meet Ramkumar Seshu, who's running this wonderful program based on the learnings of the Bhagavad Gita. And I thought that, we would explore this by doing this on a very different platform. So you're watching us here on Facebook and LinkedIn and not on Zoom, for instance. So we do away with the clutter of getting everyone to mute their mics and please show your video and things like that. But here's the fun part: you can still get to participate by writing in your comments. You have questions, we will take them during the show. If you participated yesterday, you already know this. You can type your comments below the video in on Facebook as well as on LinkedIn, and we will be very happy to take them. And let me bring up our co-host for the show, uh, Lakshmi. Hello and welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. Namaste from Bangalore. This is Rotarian Varalakshmi Balaji. I'm a chartered accountant by profession, an author and a trainer. I would be the host of this program, Swadharma, creating a process for a balanced life in a VUCA world based on the tenets of the Bhagavad Gita. First of all, I welcome you all, the Rotary fraternity, and all our friends and well-wishers who have signed up for this program with a lot of expectations. Our speaker for the session is Rotarian Ramkumar Seshu. Let me give a short intro about Rotarian Ramkumar Seshu. Ram is the author of the Born to Win process, which is based on decades of learning from the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita. This program has impacted over a lakh of entrepreneurs and corporate executives. His philosophy of I can, you can, and we can, based on the principle of Aham Brahmasmi, has been successfully implemented for over 4 decades. His signature program is Enough is Enough. Dimag ki batti jalao, take charge of your life. He is now on a mission to empower and create 1 million empowered entrepreneurs by aligning their Icha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, and Manas Shakti. Here we have Rotarian Ramkumar Seshu. That's Rotarian Ramkumar Seshu for you. And today's topic is overcoming conditioning issues. Who we are, what we are, and all that we do is defined by our conditioning, our past conditionings. The experiences we have been having from the day we were born is what defines our conditioning. And here we have Rotarian Ramkumar Seshu to delve more into this topic and address this issue, overcoming the conditioning issues based on the Bhagavad Gita. Over to you, Rotarian Ramkumar Seshu.
Thank you very much, Lakshmi and Sandeep. Truly appreciate what you both and Sharada at the back is doing. Good morning, everybody. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'd like to begin this session with a prayer to Krishna that he guides all of us and helps us understand this fairly complex issue in a simple way. Lakshmi, I'm often asked a question saying, why do you oversimplify stuff? Why do you make things so simple? And I say, look, nature is very simple. We go and make it complex in life. We unnecessarily keep adding layers. And when we keep adding layers, we make it more and more and more complex. And somewhere there is this mistaken notion that the more complex that I sound, the more complex is my thinking or my thought process or what I'm communicating, then that means I'm very deep. I must be somebody who's, really, really very knowledgeable. But actually, if you look at nature is a very simple thing. The sun rises every day in the east, sets in the west. It does what it's supposed to do. The moon rises and, waxes and wanes every 15 days. It just does what it's supposed to do. The river flows to the sea. So all these are very simple things. And I think we need to get back to simplicity, especially today in the situation that we find ourselves in. When we're in the midst of this pandemic, and now, God forbid, everybody is predicting that we're on the beginning of a third wave that is going to be happening. Look at what's happening across the world, whether it's America or anywhere in the West. It's pretty frightening right now. So I think we need a process like this to come back and rediscover something which is very, very simple. And therefore, I'm very, very grateful to all those of you who have logged in today and for the amazing comments that we've got yesterday. Please keep commenting as the program is going on. That's the advantage of this platform. You do not disturb us when we are talking. But if there is a particular comment that's an interesting comment, then I'd love to highlight that comment and talk about it even during the program to make it truly, truly an interactive kind of a program. So great. So having said that, let me try and first of all deconstruct this whole business of conditioning. Okay, what is conditioning actually? Conditioning happens to us right from the time that we're in the womb of our mother. And if you remember, I mean, in times of the past, we were told that when a mother is carrying a child, then that child, the mother must make sure that she listens to some great music, or read some good stuff, eat some very healthy food. All these are inputs that we are getting even while we are in the womb. Okay, small wonder that in those days they tried to figure this out and said that, look, maybe it's a good idea for the mother, for the mother to go and spend some time, maybe 3 months or 4 months in her parental house, because maybe there she'll get pampered and she'd be very well taken care of. So right from the time we are in the womb, we keep getting comments, we keep getting inputs. Okay, during childhood, yesterday we dwelled a little bit into this entire comparative business that we are, the comparative world that we are unfortunately living in right now. And there again, if you see throughout, the kind of inputs that you keep getting. Now, these inputs that you get, Lakshmi, are three kinds. Okay, the first is a very direct, blunt input, and it could be a positive, and all these inputs could be positive or negative or implied negative. Okay, just remember this: it's positive, negative, or implied negative. Okay, there's never something like implied positive. There's either positive input or a negative input or an implied negative, and that's the tragedy with conditioning these inputs. So, give you an example. You can have a father or a mother telling a friend who's come home that, my daughter is fantastic. I mean, she's going to do extremely well in life. And there is a son there. And the point is that with the son, if the father turns around and says, but, I'm really worried about my son, this useless fellow, I don't know what's going to happen to him. That's a serious negative. But if he just keeps quiet, then it's an implied negative input. Okay. Now, it is these inputs over a period of time, the inputs that you get at home. And it's not that these are conscious inputs. These are completely unconscious inputs that we get when we are children. And when you go to school, again, if there is a chance that you are there and somebody else is there and, you are being asked all the questions and the teacher is recognizing you and saying, wow, fantastic, great answer. And your friend who's sitting next to you has also raised his or her hand and is not getting a chance to answer, then there is an implied negative or a negative input there. Now, it is this collection of these inputs as we keep growing up that forms our conditioning. So the point is that it is these inputs that go to create our conditioning. And then we get into something called the conditioning process. What is this process? These conditioning inputs start influencing our thinking, our thoughts. And it is these thoughts that go on, whether it is positive or negative, that goes on to influence our behavior. And the behavior then makes sure that behavior, whether it is enabling behavior or whether it is not enabling behavior, will influence the kind of actions that we take. And it is these actions that will determine the kind of results that we get. So it is this conditioning process that we need to recognize and keep in mind. Oh, thank you, Sandeep. That's brilliant. So conditioning leads to thoughts. Thoughts lead to behavior. Behavior to action. Action to result. So if you can just put, the inputs that you get, if they are negative, then obviously you get negative thoughts, negative behavior, negative action, and therefore you get suboptimal results. If it is positive thoughts, then you get positive behavior, positive actions, and positive results. So what do we do about this conditioning? I can't go back in time. I'm 60 now. I can't go back in time and say, teacher, why did you do this? Or dad, why did you do that? Or mom, why did you do this? Or uncle, why did you do that? It's too, I can't go back in time, right? So here is what we can do. We can spend some time and figure out that the actions that you're taking on a daily basis, and you can do an action audit, for instance, the actions that you do on a daily basis and the actions that are performed either with a set of people or with a set of activities, are they consciously negative? Are they consciously implied negative? Or are they consciously positive? You can become conscious of this and then change your thinking. You can't do anything about your conditioning. Just recognize it and park it there. But then change your thinking so that the behavior will change, the actions that you take will change, and obviously the kind of results that you get will also change. Now, let's look at one of the classic examples of what conditioning we're talking about. And Sandeep, if you can pull up the first slide of today. This is the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita as it is. And Lakshmi, if you can help me with this, please.
धर्मक्षेत्रे कुरुक्षेत्रे समवेतयुयुत्सवः मामकाः पाण्डवश्चैव किमकुर्वत Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjaya, after gathering on the holy field of Kurukshetra and desiring to fight, what did my sons and the sons of Pandu do? धृतराष्ट्र ने पूछा, धर्म की भूमि कुरुक्षेत्र में लड़ने की इच्छा से झकटके हुए मेरे अपने पांडु, मेरे और पांडु पुत्रों ने क्या किया संजय?
Now look at this whole, look at one of the interesting conditioning effects. If you just keep the slide for a minute. This is something which I call the Dhritarashtra effect. Okay. Now Dhritarashtra, in the story, was born blind. And because he was born blind, his brother Pandu was asked to take over as the king. And Pandu, for whatever reason, couldn't discharge his duties, and therefore the kingship fell back onto Dhritarashtra. Now look at the conditioning of this man, Dhritarashtra. He has now been given inputs that, you're blind, you can't do anything, etc., etc., etc. And therefore, Dhritarashtra grows up to being a deeply jealous human being. Now look at his court. He had the best of advisors. He had Bhishma, he had Dronacharya, he had Kripa, he had the best of advisors. He had Vidura, the wise man. He had the best of advisors in his court. And yet, when it came to a crucial point of intervening and telling his favorite son, this is not the right thing to do, desist from that, he actually got into that trap of his own conditioning, and which is what I call the Dhritarashtra effect. Now, this happens to all of us in life. How? When we are setting up our enterprise, or when we are setting up our business, or when we're getting on in life, we're starting to go up in life, we keep listening to all the right kinds of people, and we get all the right inputs at that point of time. But somewhere, for some reason, we start distancing ourselves from the people who mean the best for us. And we start listening to people who pander to our ego. And this is exactly what happened to Dhritarashtra. Now, he is one of the people responsible for this entire war. And look at what he is coming here and asking Sanjaya, tell me what is happening, being desirous of the fight. Now, who wants it, that fight? The point is, he goaded, he was allowed to be goaded to get his son to fight. And he made sure that the Pandavas are also going to fight. If only he had intervened, this fight would have never happened. And history would have been completely different. Okay? So, when Dhritarashtra comes here and says, Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre, okay, what is happening in this Dharmakshetra and in this Kurukshetra? Now, this is the kind of conditioning, this is how conditioning hits all of us. So, one of the things that I keep telling people is that when will conditioning come to play? At the most crucial time of your life. That is, so you kind of suppress all those negative thoughts, and you work with all the positive thoughts, and you keep going ahead in life. But at the most important juncture of your life, at the most important point of your life, that is when this hits you. Now, yesterday we looked at Arjuna. I told you that he was the finest warrior in the entire battle. Okay, you look at him from today's perspective, right? Um, IIT Madras, IIM Ahmedabad, or Stanford or Harvard or whatever it is that the kind of degree that you can look at. Look at the people who trained him, the best of training, Dronacharya. Look at the kind of implements that he had. He had the Gandhi, he had all the implements to make him the best warrior. So, whether it is the finest laptop or the greatest backup, look at his team. You have Hanuman there, you have Krishna there. What more do you want in your team? Can you imagine this? That you've handpicked and chosen the best possible team to work with you. And you're going into battle. Now, just imagine this is for each one of us. We've done our best. We've got our best of education. We've got everything is, absolutely top class A1. And mind you, it is this Arjuna that in a fight to save Uttara's cattle, defeated all of them. Bhishma, Drona, Karna, everybody were defeated. Duryodhana. He defeated them in the battle. But at that point of time, his intention was to defeat. Now, today it is the same Arjuna that has come to Kurukshetra and is wanting to fight. And he tells Krishna clearly that, look, I want to see who is fighting on the side of Dharma and who's fighting against the side of Adharma. Now, Krishna, being Krishna, knows, according to me, one critical flaw in Arjuna's thinking. He knows Arjuna's conditioning, that from childhood, here is a person who has always deferred to his elders, who has never ever gone against his elders. And Krishna perhaps knows this, that at a crucial point of time in the war, will Arjuna have the mental toughness to go ahead and kill a Bhishma or a Drona or a Karna or all the other elders? Because if he doesn't do it, then this war will not end. Because it's a war for dharma, right? Now, whatever be your interpretation, the point is, look at this from a conditioning issue. Now, we're talking from modern psychology perspective. Look at Arjuna now. Okay, the finest guy, ready to get into battle, and look at what happens to him. And Lakshmi, will you help me with the next shloka that I'd like to showcase to all of you?
Yeah.
Sandeep?
Chapter 1, verse 25, right?
Sandeep, this shloka. Yeah.
Yes. This chapter 1, verse 25.
That's right.
Bhishmadrona pramukataha sarvesham cha mahikshitam uvacha partha pashetam samavetan kuruniti. In the presence of Bhishma, Dronacharya, and all the other kings, Sri Krishna said, O Partha, behold these Kurus gathered here. भीम, द्रोण और सब राजाओं के सामने रथ खड़ा करके कृष्ण ने अर्जुन से कहा, अर्जुन, इन इकट्ठे हुए कौरवों को देख.
Okay, now look at this whole thing. Okay, look at the master that Krishna is really. Just imagine what a fantastic process guide he is. He brings him there and he says, look at Bhishma, look at Dronacharya, look at all your other kings. Oh Arjuna, take a look at these people. And he knows for a fact that his past conditioning will come to the fore. And Arjuna expectedly will get into what Dr. B.M. Hegde calls classical reactive depression with severe anxiety. Now, these are fancy terms that we're using right now, but this is as old as the hills, this whole complication. And if you go to the next shloka, we know what we're talking about. Sandeep? Yeah, go ahead, Lakshmi.
Yes, this is from chapter 1, verse 47. Sanjay uvacha yeva muktvarjuna sankhye rathopasta upavishat visijya sansharam chapam shoka samvigna manasaha. Sanjaya said, speaking thus, Arjun cast aside his bow and arrows and sank into the seat of his chariot, his mind in distress and overwhelmed with grief. संजय बोला, ये सब कहकर शोक से भरे मन वाला अर्जुन तीरों सहित धनुष को छोड़कर रणभूमि में रथ के बीच बैठ गया.
Look at this, right? And this is what Dr. Hegde calls, from today's point of view. I mean, this is such fantastic stuff. Just to give you an idea that we can complicate stuff like this. Classical reactive depression with severe anxiety syndrome. Okay, so this is the problem. This is the challenge with conditioning people. Okay, what happens with your conditioning is that just when you need that the most, those thoughts will not be there. Just when you need to summon up all the courage and you've done everything right, it will desert you. Just when you need to be pleasant the most, you will not be pleasant anymore. Just when you should not react but respond, you will become reactive. This is the challenge with conditioning. And this is what we need to overcome. This is what we need to fight on a daily basis. Now, is there a simple, short, single bullet kind of a, silver bullet kind of a solution for this? No. Throughout our life, we have to remember this fact. Some of us, and I like the fact that my dear friend Vivek is here, and he sent me a beautiful message in the morning. Now, Vivek was someone who, Vivek, with your permission, he grew up by studying in an army school, and the rigors and the disciplines of the army school were obviously there. And Vivek is a fantastic father, he's a great businessman right now, and a fantastic friend. The point is, it is this conditioning that we need to recognize and ensure that at the time when you need it the most, it doesn't desert you. And that is the kind of thing that we'll have to keep in mind. So just imagine what Arjuna does. We don't have it here, but in chapter 2, in verse 9, he says, look, I'm not going to fight. And he lays down his bow and arrow. Can you imagine the finest warrior in the Pandava firmament, the only guy who had all the skills and the knowledge to fight the war, has such a huge attitude problem. And he says that I'm not going to fight this war. It doesn't matter. Let me not sully my hands with the blood of my relatives. And he gives that entire chapter 1 is a litany of excuses, one after the other, piling on. And this is what your mind does to you. You see, when your conditioning hits you, now what happens with your thought process is this, that your entire thought process will keep clouding, will keep getting clouded. Okay? And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna very nicely, says that like the smoke covers a fire, like dust covers a mirror. Okay? These thoughts keep piling on, one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other, saying, don't do what you're supposed to do. So we need to recognize this and we need to move away from this. And today I'm hoping that we will get into a process by which we can actually do this and figure out a way of how do we come out of this entire issue. Now, sometimes you believe that you need a shock treatment, especially if you're working with, if there is a junior of yours, or if there is a son of yours, or a daughter of yours, or a spouse of yours, or whatever it is, brother, sister, etc. You think when they're not doing something that they're capable of doing, and it is their conditioning that's troubling them, you think that it is good to administer some kind of a shock. How can you do this? Why can't you do something different? How dare you? We try and get into that shock treatment, but it doesn't work. Krishna tried this with Arjuna. Okay, let's see what Krishna does initially to Arjuna, and gets an interesting response. So Sandeep, can we get that chapter 2, verse 3, Lakshmi?
3 or 11?
3, please.
Yeah. क्लैभ्यं मास्मगमः पार्थ नैतत्त्वय्युपपद्यते श्रुद्रं हृदयर्दौर्बल्यं व्यक्तोत्तिष्ठ परन्तप. O Partha, it does not befit you to yield to this unmanliness. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise. O vanquisher of enemies. तू नपुंसकता को मत पा, तेरे लिए ये ठीक नहीं है। ओ परम तपे, हृदय की इस छोटी सी कमजोरी को हटाकर खड़ा हो जा।
Right? So Krishna is trying to give him a shock treatment, saying, Hridaya Daurbalam, what is this rubbish here? Come on. You're a vanquisher of enemies, And if you see this very throughout the Bhagavad Gita, I'll keep pointing out some interesting stuff for those of you who'd like to read it. Throughout, Krishna will keep changing the way he talks. He just doesn't call him Arjuna. He calls him O Parth, and then he calls him Parantapa. Okay? And each of these is a loaded word. Okay? Sometime when we have the time, we'll get into all the different ways in which Arjuna addresses Krishna and Krishna addresses Arjuna. And it's an entire learning in itself by that. So when you need to address the conditioning issues of your own self or of somebody else, shock treatment doesn't work. It doesn't really happen. It is a process. You need to work with people. There is infinite patience that is required because this doesn't really happen. After he says this, Arjuna very clearly says, I'm sorry, I'm not going to fight. I don't agree with you. Why are you pushing me into doing this? Okay. And only when Arjuna gets to a point where he suddenly realizes that, look, why is Krishna pushing me into this? And there is a very beautiful, verse in chapter 2, which is, which has a lovely word called Karpanya Dosham, which is, it is this dosha within me that is kind of mocking me. And then he says, look, tell me, please instruct me. What is it that you want me to do? What is it that is best for me without a doubt? Please tell me. So remember this, that, when you get to that situation, right, of becoming something which I call a committed person, right? Let me give you another example. Supposing there's somebody who's smoking and you want him to get rid of the habit, okay? Now you've got to understand that there are various stages in that, okay? Until and unless that person gets to be what I call a committed quitter, he's not going to quit because he's just paying you lip service. He's concerned, he becomes a quitter. You do all kinds of silly stuff. You cut the cigarette into half, you smoke only in the morning, you don't smoke in the evening, and do all this rubbish. But it isn't going to work. Till you become a committed quitter, like till Arjuna comes and says, look, I am committing myself, teach me, instruct me. Tell me, what is it that is best for me, O Krishna? Only then will you be ready to listen and start addressing your conditioning issues. So remember this, you need to seek help. Okay? You need to find a person that you trust. Now, who should this person be? Should he be a coach? Should he be a mentor? Sure. But such a person can be your mother, such a person can be a spouse, such a person can be an elder brother, such a person, anybody. It doesn't really matter. All that you need to do is that with humility, you need to seek help. So here is a very belligerent Arjuna who says, I will not fight, and puts his bow and arrow down. But then suddenly he realizes that he is talking to his friend, his mentor, someone who he respects a lot, Krishna. And he turns around and he says, I need help, Krishna. Please help me out. So the first thing to do is to recognize why is it that a certain set of actions that you're performing are not getting you the kind of results that you should get. Dig deep into it and figure out what is that conditioning that is holding you back. Okay? And if there's any of you who need any help, reach out. I'd love to help you. Me, Lakshmi, Sandeep, Sharda, we're all, we'd all love to help you people in that area. Okay, if there are anger issues, what are the manifestations of things that don't help you get to your, the result or the outcome that you want? Obviously, it could be anger, it could be depression, it could be giving up, it could be sadness, it could be fear, it could be anxiety. Any of these issues can be dealt with. Number one, but you need to seek help. Find a person that you trust. You don't have to have, the finest coach. You just need to find a person that you can trust who will tell you, look, is this something that is worrying you? And therefore, can you do something about it? Okay. Once you do that, then you've started your journey. Okay. Once you do that, that is when you start your journey on overcoming your conditioning issues. Right. Keep this in mind that the challenge is internal, but I need a process by which I sit with someone, I talk to someone, and I figure out a way. There are so many times, for instance, I meet young people, you know, concerned fathers, concerned mothers, concerned grandparents who bring, their children or their the young ones to us, and we talk to them. And it is just this, that once they get into that establishment of trust, invariably we find that the answers are so simple and actionable. Remember that. Okay. So once you do that, once Arjuna does this with Krishna, saying, Krishna, help me, make me understand, how do I do this? Only then will the process actually start. So the beginning of Krishna's teaching, okay, while he did talk about him, saying, Arjuna, take a look at Bhishma and Drona, while he did tell him about Hridaya Dwarbalam, the actual, in a way, the Gita discourse starts with this particular stanza that I'm going to request Sandeep and Lakshmi to help us with. And I must say, Lakshmi, guys, I'd love to hear from you on the comments box about how well Lakshmi is, reciting these shlokas and bringing them to life. Lakshmi, thank you very much for that.
Thank you. I'm blessed. This is chapter 2, verse 38, right?
Verse 11, Lakshmi.
Sorry, yes. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Ashocyananvashocastvam Pragyavadamscha bhashase Gatasu na gatasumscha Nanushocanti panditaha. The Supreme Lord said, while you speak words of wisdom, you are mourning for that which is not worthy of grief. The wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. जो शोक करने लायक नहीं है उसके लिए तू शोक कर रहा है और ज्ञान की बातें भी कर रहा है. ज्ञानी तो शोक नहीं करते, न उनके लिए जो चल गए, न ही उनके लिए जो अभी नहीं गए.
Fantastic, right? So this is a very significant verse, because this, in many ways, as I said, is the beginning of Krishna, of Arjuna actually getting into a quest with Krishna, saying, Krishna, I have so many questions, will you please help me? And this is the beginning of what Krishna's talks is all about. Look at what he tells him very clearly. Okay, that while you're speaking something, you're doing something else. Your thinking is something else. Okay, you're speaking something, but your thinking is something else. And this is the problem with conditioning. We think something, we say something, we do something else, and we say that we've done something totally different. Right? Let me repeat. We think something, we say something, we do something else, and we say that we've done something completely different. And this is the challenge with conditioning, really. Okay, and this is where, with infinite patience and actually with a smile, he tells him that, look, what are you doing, my friend? While you're speaking words of wisdom, you're thinking something else, you're mourning for something else, and you don't have to do that, right? Because you have to come out of this. So let me tell you one way of developing, of getting out of this conditioning issue is to develop what I call a macro vision. You need to develop a macro vision. Now, I'm going to give you a very interesting quote of a lecture that I heard way back, I think in 1980, if I'm not wrong. And I hope I can get some of those words right. Okay. And look at this. This is 1980, 40 years earlier. Okay. And the speaker, and I'm going to tell you who the speaker was in just a while. The speaker says, developing a macro vision is the practical need of the day. Developing a macro vision is the practical need of the day. The times are changing. Frontiers are no longer frontiers. Oceans are no longer boundaries. An incident happening in one part of the world has repercussions all over the world. Today, all nations are being woven into one fabric. 1980, guys. Do you think this is a prophetic words of a wise sage predicting that 40 years later, we're going to be in the middle of this pandemic. Frontiers are no longer frontiers, oceans are no longer safe boundaries. What happens in one part of the world is going to impact the rest of the world. This is Swami Chinmayananda. Okay. And I'm very fortunate that some part of my childhood was spent listening to him. Swami Chinmayananda, 1980, 40 years ago. And he says you need to develop this macro vision. So when you want to confront your conditioning issues, remember one very important point, that we will instantly get into this micro vision. And we need to get back into developing a macro vision. And what is this macro vision? This is your Swadharma, if nothing else. That look, what is my Swadharma? What is it that I wanted to do? And yesterday, I think Lakshmi put out a beautiful message on the WhatsApp groups for some of you, that please work on your macro vision. What is it that you love doing the most? Recognize that. What is it that you dislike doing the most? And what you dislike doing is part of your conditioning issue. Okay, so we're going to handle that in just a while. But he says, look, if you need to develop that macro vision, then how do we actually go about developing that macro vision and getting that going? Okay, and Krishna has some interesting advice for us on that. Sandeep, can we go to chapter 2, verse number 38, please? Yes, Lakshmi.
सुखदुःखे समे कृत्वा लाभालाभौ जयाजयौ तथो युद्धाय युज्यस्व नैवं पापमवाप्यसि. Fight for the sake of duty, treating alike happiness and distress, loss and gain, victory and defeat. Fulfilling your responsibility in this way, you will never incur sin. सुख दुख लाभ हानि जय पराजय सब एक समान समझकर लड़ाई लड़, इससे तो पाप को प्राप्त नहीं होगा.
Fantastic. So just keep this slide for a little while. Look at what he's telling us. When you want to get out of that conditioning trap and you're developing this macro vision, don't get stuck in the small stuff. Okay? Look at what he's saying. You must treat alike happiness and distress, loss and gain, victory and defeat. So this play of opposites that will come to haunt us when we are actually working on overcoming our conditioning by developing on this macro vision, this is what will help us get out of this trap that we are all finding ourselves in. Okay, that he says, look, if you don't handle these differences, if you don't handle this play of opposites, you're not really going to get what you want to get in life. Keep this in mind. Okay, so we listen far too much, to what? To the distress part, to the loss part, to the defeat part, the possibility of distress, the possibility of a loss, the possibility of a defeat. And that is where we need to get this macro vision happening that says that, look, this is my Swadharma. Yesterday, Reshma asked me a fantastic question saying that, look, how do I continue to do what I need to do, even though if I'm not going to get the response that I'm going to get? And exactly this is the point. That, look, if you develop that macro vision, and keep this in mind, that there is this macro vision that you have for yourself, which is your Swadharma, and you've got this micro vision, which is all about all these conditioning challenges that are coming and pulling you down in life. You have the right to figure out what is it that you want to give more importance to, your macro vision or what is pulling you down in life. Okay, you've got this, you have to figure this out, that look, should I give more importance to this aspect of my life, which is my Swadharma, which is what I want to do in my life, which is what I want to be, which is what I always thought I'm going to be? Or am I going to give more importance to these inputs, the inputs of what Krishna tells us, loss or defeat or depression or stress or whatever it is, and figure out how you want to do that? Obviously, you're going to make sure that I want to give more importance to what I have and not what I don't have. Okay? Or not what is pulling me down in life. So a little later today, we will get into a small exercise in terms of what is it that you can do to overcome some of these issues. So even during the pandemic, even during the pandemic, okay. And again, with your permission, Vivek, I'd just like to highlight something. We all heard about the way we treated some of our labor, and how this labor just migrated and went away from all our major cities, Bangalore, Bombay, Delhi, etc., 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 with great distress. It was one of the saddest days of my life to see these people try and board trains and get back home, trying to escape the pandemic. And it was really, really, really very sad. But there are people even at this time that took care of those people, their workers, their labor. And guess what happened? The minute the pandemic got over, it is these workers, because of their loyalty to the people who took care of them, that they came back to work. And when they came back to work, it is these organizations that have done extremely well. So, mind you, while the entire economy is down, we still have islands of hope of people whose conditioning it was to take care of people, not to desert them, not to throw them under the bus. And it is these people who really, really stood out. So, how does Krishna tell us? How do you handle this opposites? What do you need to do to make sure that you can overcome this conditioning issue? So, first he says, don't be scared. Second, he says, listen, recognize the play of opposites in life, but then you need to come out of it. And I'd like you to please bring up uh, the verse 55 of chapter 2, Lakshmi.
श्रीभगवानुवाच प्रजहाति यदा कामान् सर्वान् पार्थमनोगतान् आत्मन्येवात्मना तुष्टः स्थितप्रज्ञस्तदोच्यते. The Supreme Lord said, O Parth, when one discards all selfish desires and cravings of the senses that torment the mind and becomes satisfied in the realization of the self, such a person is said to be transcendentally situated. भगवान बोले, जब मन में आ रही कभी कामनाओं के हटाकर वह अपने आप में रमा हुआ संतुष्ट है, तब स्थित प्रज्ञ कहलाता है.
Fantastic. So he is, Arjuna asks him, who's a Sthita Prajna? How does this guy, what are you talking about? How do you get to be a person who can handle this, this entire play of opposite? Actually, chapter 2 is very interesting because in all of Krishna, when he starts off, he talks about the Atman and, the indestructibility of the Atman. And then he goes on to karma. And then he talks about the Sthita Prajna, the three interesting concepts that he brings into chapter 2. But look at this whole logic of a Sthita Prajna. He says, can you become a Sthita Prajna to handle the play of opposites? And here is his key for our conditioning problems. Don't get carried away or elated either by the successes or the praise that you hear in the marketplace. Don't get deflated and feel down by the kind of negative response that you may get in the marketplace. These opposites are bound to happen. What he says, hot and cold, pleasure and pain, likewise success and failure, obstacles, okay? All of these will come in our way. That is bound to happen. But here is the key for us to overcome our conditioning challenges, to become what he calls a sthita prajna, of someone who can handle the play of opposites in life. So, as I said, you've got your macro vision, your Swadharma, and you need to work on that, right? Or this play of the micro vision that can bring you down in life. Now, this is your choice. So, if you become a Sthita Prajna and move away from this play of opposites and don't allow it to affect you or impact you, then you're going to go ahead with your macro vision. So Swami Chinmayananda, who introduced to us this entire word, he defines macro vision as a mental vitality that comes when you discover your larger purpose in life, your Swadharma. Look at the beauty of what his definition is. It is a mental vitality that comes when
Okay, I think Ram is having some technical issues. Maybe
Looks
he's,
like.
yeah, he's just off screen. So, so till we get him back on screen,
Yes.
right? What we could do is, take a couple of the comments that have come in here, and maybe Lakshmi, you can talk about it.
Yes.
I had a very interesting thing coming up when Ram mentioned about Swami Chinmayanan.
Mhm.
It was such a coincidence that when I was in school, and this was also in the early 1980s. Yeah, I
Mhm.
am that old. We had the good fortune of having Swami Chinmayanan come and address us in the audience over there, and it was really something that really helped us understand a lot of things, because students at that age are very, now of course in hindsight, we can say very impressionable minds. But what is it's really true, in terms of I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, and this issue about beliefs and conditioning and limiting beliefs, this comes up very deeply when you look at how entrepreneurs are doing things. And I have a very favorite anecdote of mine, which, with your permission, and till we get Ram back on screen, I can
Yeah.
narrate this. You see, we've all heard of this guy called Roger Bannister, and I don't know, maybe some of you have. uh, he's now Sir Roger Bannister, and this was the early 1950s. In the early 1950s, there was this perception that 1 mile cannot be run under 4 minutes. Okay, and there were a lot of people who tried it, trained athletes who tried it, all of it. And Roger Bannister was a neurologist. Actually, athletics was his hobby. He wasn't a trained athlete, but he was wanting to study. He didn't have the money, so since he was an athlete, he got a athletic scholarship into Oxford University, and he got in over there. He was very enamored and wanted to participate even in the Olympics in 1948. And then in 1952, in the Olympics, he actually ran, but in the
Mhm.
1500 meters, but he came in fourth. He missed a medal, and he was very disappointed. He almost quit. And then he decided that he had to do something very, very different. And he said he's going to break the 4 minute barrier for the mile. Now, generally the conditions are supposed to be suitable for running, but it was a very cold, wet, wintry day on the 4th of May in 1954, and this guy decides to run it, and he actually runs the 4 mile under 4 minutes. He did it in 3 minutes 59.4 seconds. Now, here's the
Wow.
fun part: something which was thought of that could not be done at all for many, many years was done. 46 days later, his record was broken by another guy, John Landry, who beat his record. He's an Australian. And in the months that followed, there were university students around the world who were beating this. Now, what happened? For many, many years, a lot of people thought that this mile could not be run under 4 minutes. And here, in the space of a few months, there were like dozens of people who were happily doing it. So it's coming back to what Ram said. I know, yeah, he's back on screen. Yes, Ram.
Oh,
Sorry, we hijacked your program a little with an
I know, I know.
anecdote.
No, no, no. I'm glad you did that, because there was suddenly this
Yeah.
power
Yeah, I
shutdown.
know it
So
happens. Yeah.
yeah,
So I was just talking about that once you
that's a
overcome
great
something that
example.
you're conditioned, and you believe that it's possible, you can actually do it, and so can others. So that's
Absolutely,
interesting. Yeah, Ram, over to you. Back.
absolutely. No, I think that's a great example that you gave, Sandeep, of how we were conditioned to believe that we can't do this.
Yeah.
And the minute somebody broke through, after that there was a deluge of people. Then it became just completely passe. You know, it's like the Indian cricket team.
Yeah.
After 1983, till 1983, believing that we can't really do anything significant, or this
Yeah.
current team. You
Yeah.
know, Yesterday at the Rotary Club, I was talking to Tilak, who's Bharat Arun, the bowling coach's brother-in-law. And I said, how did we get into a situation where we've got the best pace battery in the world? Yeah.
Yeah.
We never thought that we have the physique or we have the mental conditioning to be, great fast bowlers. We always thought that we're a great spinner, nation of spinners. And today these guys are hunting like, there's no tomorrow. And it's relentless. What Bharat Arun and company have done is that they've created such a pool of talent that each one of them is just getting better and better and better.
See,
Super.
it's almost got to a stage where if a batsman decides or gets dropped, He's worried that his replacement will probably be better than him, and he'll never be able to
Exactly.
get his place back in the
Exactly.
team.
Exactly. See, this
The
this
the
was
under
the
Exactly.
first.
19 cricket team
Yeah,
has won the World Cup now for the eighth year in a row.
exactly. And the point is that earlier, cricketers took for granted. It was their conditioning was that we can take this whole thing for granted. Anyway, to come back, to the Sthita Prajna, okay, that we were talking about. If you can just get that slide back again, I think, yeah. So look at what he is saying here, okay, that if you were to discard all selfish desires and cravings of the senses. Lakshmi, will you read this again for us? Just, I'm sorry.
Yes, sure. Yeah. श्रीभगवानुवाच प्रजहाति यदा कामान् सर्वान् पार्थमनोगतान् आत्मन्येवात्मना तुष्टः स्थितप्रज्ञस्तथोच्यते. The Supreme Lord said, O Parth, when one discards all selfish desires and cravings of the senses that torment the mind and becomes satisfied in the realization of the self, such a person is said to be transcendently situated. भगवान बोले, जब मन में आ रही कभी कामनाओं को हटाकर वह अपने आप में रमा हुआ संतुष्ट है, तब स्थित प्रज्ञ कहलाता है.
Fantastic, right? So throughout the Gita, actually, there are very, very many beautiful words like this. One is the Sthita Prajna, and I hope to introduce you to some more of them. The other is called Gunatitha. The third is called Jivan Mukta. All of them, talking about the same kind of a concept to us. So here is one way that we can overcome our conditioning challenges, and that is by making sure that this play of opposites that is haunting us in life, especially when it comes to the microvision part, is taken care of. So if you can look at your Swadharma or your macrovision, and I like what Balaji Manu has put out there, saying you keep working on the micro part, but you make sure that it is subsumed under the macrovision. So the macro vision is what will help you figure out that, look, whatever is this behavior that I'm doing, which is not helping me move ahead to what I want to get to, and that really will come up. So Krishna's message to Arjuna is very clear: stand up and fight. You don't get into this lowly weakness of your heart. Don't grieve for that which need not be grieved. You do not have to grieve for. You stand up, you fight, because that is your Swadharma. Don't worry about the small stuff that he talks about. And look at what Swami Chinmayananda was mentioning to us. Macrovision is the mental vitality that comes when you discover your larger purpose in life, which is your Swadharma. So that mental vitality is what is required. And that mental vitality will help us overcome these conditioning issues and this microvision that we are talking about that will possibly bring us down. It's very, very important that we discover that. So, in continuation of what we talked about yesterday, that look, sit down, contemplate, figure out, go deep into yourself and find out what is it that makes you truly, truly happy. What is it that gives you that happiness? And how can you make sure that you keep working on it? So, what do you do when you've got those microvision challenges that come every day to you? And it is bound to happen. As I said earlier, it is not that, once you've conquered it forever. No. It's like, it's again, go back to my favorite example of sport, whether you're a footballer or a hockey player or a golfer or, whatever is the sport that you're playing, every day is a new game. And every day, even if you're in the business of sales or, if you're in the business of teaching or whatever it is that you're doing, if you're a trader, every day is a new day. And every day you will have these issues that will crop up. One of the conditioning challenges that we've been seeing in the last 18 years is the challenge of people wanting to postpone doing what you dislike. Okay, so I dislike making that troublesome call. I dislike calling that client who gives me grief. I dislike confronting an employee who's not performing. I dislike confronting my boss who's coming in the way of my performing some task or work or whatever it is. I dislike having this difficult conversation with my spouse or with my brother or sister or husband or wife or son or daughter or whatever it is. And I keep postponing that. Okay. Now, there's a very interesting concept that Brian Tracy talks about, which is eat the frog. So he gives us a very interesting example. He says every day in the morning, do one thing. As soon as you get up, take a frog, get a frog from the market, take a glass of water and swallow the frog. Can there be anything worse than that in your life? None, right? And because there is nothing worse than that in your life, if we can develop this mental vitality, that let's take the most unpleasant things that we need to do in a day, and there will be a lot of unpleasant stuff that we need to do in the day. Let's take them and let's get rid of them early in the morning, because then the whole day will be left for you to handle your macro vision. So eat the frog, face those challenges with courage. Don't worry about them. Don't bother about the fact that there are these irritants, there are these things that you dislike doing in your life. It is better to get rid of them early in the morning so that the rest of the day can be spent on working on your Swadharma. You know why? Because the point is that in the morning, it's just a small little challenge that you're postponing. But by the end of the day, it's going to become such a huge challenge. And your conditioning is telling you that, look, wait, let's take care of it. It'll go away. Maybe it will happen. Don't worry about it. These are all conditioning challenges that we have. So the macro vision, the mental vitality you require is to say, no, let me confront this issue. Let me take the bull by the horns right up front in the morning and close this out, because then I can get back to working on what I need to work. This deep unhappiness that happens, yesterday we did the unhappiness ladder. This deep unhappiness that comes is because I know I have to do this difficult task, but I don't have the mental vitality to go ahead and handle that difficult task. And that is where the challenge really comes. So at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna finishes all the almost 700 verses, and he asks Arjuna, are you now convinced, Arjuna, that you will fight? And Arjuna at that point of time turns around and says, yes, Krishna, I am going to fight. There's no doubt about that. Okay? And this is how you can overcome your mental conditioning, your past conditioning, and develop that mental vitality, that macro vision that is required for you to go and do what you need to be doing in life. So Lakshmi did mention to you yesterday that we'd love to make this into a interactive session and also an action oriented session, and not just a Gyan Bato session.
Right.
Yesterday I said, make a list of stuff that you like to do, a list of stuff that you dislike doing, and figure out how to align both. Today we're taking it one step forward, and we're saying, work on your macro vision, the Swadharma, what you love to do. Okay? Whatever is the work that you're doing right now, figure out which part of it is the work that you really, really love doing. Okay? Love, not like. You love doing this kind of work. Right? And that is what keeps you coming to the office every day in the morning. That's what wakes you up and gets you out of bed every day, saying, this is what I love to do. Okay? And then recognize those irritants which are coming in your way and eat that frog. Confront it. Don't allow it to keep festering. So whatever it is that you want to do, and this is the whole point of the Gita. The Gita teaches us this very, very valuable lesson. So guys, just go eat the frog, get it out of the way. And so quick recap of some of the interesting thoughts of today. One, remember, it is your conditioning that leads to your thoughts, that leads to your behavior, that leads to your action, and that's the results that you're going to get. Change your thinking. You can't do a thing about your conditioning. Change your thinking so that you get it into an enabling behavior, get into the enabling action, and therefore get the results that you want. Then the second point, seek help. Always remember, asking for help is a sign of strength. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Ask for help. Find a person that you trust and go and talk to that person. It could be a school teacher, it could be your professor from college, it could be one of your best friends, whoever it is. But ask with humility that, look, I need help. Can you just be a sounding board? Maybe the person doesn't have any answers, it doesn't matter, but while talking, you will get a tremendous amount of clarity. The third point, develop a macro vision. Make sure that you get that macro vision going for yourself, so that this macro vision will then help you give that mental vitality that you require to come back every day in what you do. And then make the mind a slave of your heart, which is very, very clearly what Krishna's message is. Don't get into this daurbalam of the mind. Make sure that you get into a situation where your mind is aligned with your heart and not the other way around. And then he talks about how to become a sthita prajna. Handle the play of opposites in life. Don't be worried about it. There will be opposites, there will be opposition, perfect. But handle it. Don't run away from it. Don't get overawed by that. And lastly, if you have to keep moving on, eat the frog. Make sure that whatever it is whatever are the challenges that come in your way, handle them with courage. And that is how you will overcome your past, conditioning issues and start leading your life according to your Swadharma. With that, I will close this particular talk right now, but we're open for any observations, any comments, any thoughts, any questions. We'll try and see how we can handle that. Lakshmi and Sandeep, love to hear
Yes.
you guys first. What would you want to
What a
share?
fantastic moment from Dhritarashtra's the vacillating mind because of his conditionings, and how we ended into a sthita prajna state. And that's a beautiful, beautiful journey you took us into. I mean, like, now in this last 45 minutes, honestly, I mean, I have a confession because I have gone into myself, and he's definitely have identified some of those black spots. I mean, seriously, because the way you took me, I mean, it's definitely I have not come across. It was fantastic. I mean, how the entire flow went, past conditioning. Yes, absolutely. That I think, on the macro vision that you said, man's grasp is beyond his reach. That's how it should be. Robert Browning's that I remember when you gave some example. Yes, I think to make us into the sthita, get us into the sthita prajna state, the macro vision you said, understanding the conditionings, how you go into it, it was amazing. That's all I can say. Over to Sandeep.
Yeah, no, it's very enlightening, and it's a lot what most entrepreneurs actually end up doing. They need to hear this. And a lot of entrepreneurs believe that this spirituality thing is not for them, and they can do it. After they've done their billion-dollar valuation unicorns, and then they can retire and then listen to all of this. It's actually the people who are actually setting out their work who need to listen to this, because true innovation really doesn't happen unless you get out of your comfort zone, right? And
Mm,
the true innovation will happen only when I mean, what is innovation? It's either doing something completely new or finding a new way of doing something. Now, you
That's
can't do either of these two things if you're stuck in the past. Okay. So if you don't get out of that, as you say, and yeah, you very rightly put it, conditioned thinking. So if you don't realize what your conditionings are and you're not able to overcome them, okay, there is no way that you're going to become a unicorn, successful entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it, because all of the innovation has either been discovering or doing something new or finding a newer way of doing something that was already done. So that's basically what innovation is. There is, I don't know any other definition of it. And one cannot do that if you're stuck in the past. Okay. So you have to find something new. And there is this conditioning which most people don't realize. It's as Daniel Kahneman put it. You have this fast brain and slow brain. So you quickly want to figure out what's happening. So you quickly try to typecast or stereotype people or situations so that you understand them better. But the thing is that actually limits you. So one must understand whether the beliefs are, limiting beliefs or empowering beliefs, as Wayne Dyer says, So yes, I think this is very, very important, and I'm glad you brought out this point. And I hope there are, budding entrepreneurs and businessmen out there who are listening to this, because this really helps you in the business. It is not to, have a good retired life and, attain nirvana, after you've retired. It is for people who are actually facing these challenges on a day-to-day basis who will benefit from this. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So wonderful session. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Would you
Yeah,
like
we've
to
got
take
some
any of
interesting
these questions,
questions. Yeah,
Sandeep?
Yes.
interesting comments and questions that have come up here.
Yeah.
Lakshmi, you'd want to take them up? I can put them up on
Yeah,
screen.
definitely. Um,
Okay,
okay.
there's one here.
Merpuri has a
I think this.
question.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I put one up on screen. Yeah, so maybe
Yeah,
you
apologies.
can.
Yes, we will take that question. Yes.
Yeah. What's the difference between preconditioning and conditioning as per circumstances?
Fine. So you see, there's nothing called preconditioning, Balaji. There's just conditioning. Okay. And the conditioning that is happening as per circumstances is really your response, your reaction. More than response, it's your reaction. That is happening there as far as that particular circumstance is concerned. So what really happens is that if you've heard of this famous theory again that we talk about in the Puranas of flight or fight. Okay, either are you going to run away or are you going to stand and fight? Okay, now it is this conditioning of yours that will influence this thought, that should I stay back and fight or should I take flight from here and run away from the situation, right? So the response to the circumstance emanates from the conditioning that you've had in the past, Balaji. Okay, so preconditioning or conditioning is the same thing, and the response that you do, the reaction that you take up, is influenced by your conditioning, whether you're going to fight or you're going to fly, take flight and run away from there, and which is the kind of response that you will take to that, right? Super, lovely
There's a
question.
wonderful question from Mihir Merpuri. Yes. On the
Yeah.
same lines, we were talking about finding someone to trust, right? She's
Yes.
asking, Ramji, how does one know that this Krishna is true? How does one know whom to trust? We are not being taken advantage of. It's a wonderful question, I feel.
Beautiful, beautiful. Meher,
Beautiful
thank you very
question.
much. Meher is a friend of mine from Mumbai, Lakshmi and Sandeep. Meher, this is a brilliant question that you asked. How do you know that this is the Krishna that is there in your life, or you should trust this Krishna, or you should do that? I would say, Meher, go back to the person who makes you the most comfortable. Someone who is not motivated, who has no ulterior motives, okay, in giving you some kind of advice, who does not come from a particular standpoint that is there. So go back to the basics, Meher. Go back to the basics, Meher, because if you go back to the basics, then there are chances that you will discover someone, right? Now, this is also a process that you need to follow, Meher. That you need to figure out, saying it's not that the first person that you meet, or there's no title in this. That's why I said it could be anybody that you want, that you could look at. Okay, but here is someone who has no axe to grind, but is someone who wants to work with you, who wants to genuinely help you, who you can trust implicitly. Now, trust also, Meher, remember, is earned in life. Okay, there's nothing, there's nobody who comes with a signboard on their forehead saying, trust me. Okay, trust is something that they will have to earn your trust. Okay, so obviously when you're getting into this journey of figuring out who can be a great sounding board, initially it can be somebody, and then it can move on. And I think that's the beauty of organizations like a Rotary or a Round Table or a Ladies Circle or an Inner Wheel, all these Road Tract. These are organizations that are great organizations, because unconsciously you will meet people in these organizations who you can instinctively start getting onto the journey of trusting. And these are people who are not motivated. So you can go back to your childhood, find somebody from there, or you can actually look at someone, and get into that process of working with people that you can actually trust. And today, fortunately, in India, there are a number of people like this, who run excellent coaching services, who run fabulous services. We've got Srini, who's logged in here. Great guy. Talk to him, and you will develop that kind of trust in them. Reshma,
As I
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the next one is Reshma. And it's in similar lines. I think you've already answered, but still I'll bring it up. In life, we look up to someone like Krishna, but that person is so human. So sometimes the closest person in relation also changes. Yes, again, it's the same trust issue.
It
You
does,
you
Reshma. It does. So remember one thing. In, in even in the Mahabharata, even in the Bhagavad Gita, the fact is Krishna is today the Supreme Lord, right? But at that point of time, the way he addresses Arjuna so many ways, and I talked to you about this, he's a friend, okay? And he's someone that is there. So this is going to happen, right? People will keep changing. So all I'm saying is that look, uh, let me try and re-answer that question to you and Meher. Don't develop a crutch in life. The best friend that you have is yourself, Reshma and Meher. Always remember this. Okay. So if you want to talk to someone, if you want to, get some of those cobwebs removed in your mind, have a conversation or two conversations or three conversations in life. But remember, at the end of the day, you are your best friend. Yeah, there is nobody else but you who can help you. So this process of overcoming conditioning, if you need if you need someone to kind of just help you remove some of those cobwebs, do that. But don't develop a crutch in life. Okay, make sure that you have you become your best friend. You become the person who's going to help you the most, because it is your journey inside. It is your journey. You know best what works for you. You know best what doesn't work for you. I can only sit across the table and help remove some of those cobwebs and get some clarity. But after that, Reshma, remember, or Meher, that the journey is yours. I can't be a crutch working with you. When I'm saying I'm saying whoever is the person that you want to use, can't be a crutch with you all your life. That is the ultimate truth. That is the truth of life. Keep this in mind.
We have Amritavalli Sumitran Sampat's question. Sometimes when
Please.
we remind ourselves of Swadharma, we feel losing out of something. How to deal with it?
Sorry, can I say that? Sometimes when we remind
Some,
ourselves of Dharma, we feel losing out something. Oh no, actually, let me tell you this, that if you are working on your Swadharma, okay, if you're working on your Swadharma, and if you're kind of committed to that, and you're working on it, and you're well on your way there, believe me, this thought that, look, am I losing out something, will not come into picture at all. Okay, because when you're working on that macro vision, and if you truly love what you're doing, you may add layers to it. You may add more and more layers to it. Like, I'll give you an example. I'm sorry, if you can just type out what you do, then I can make this answer more relevant to you. But let us presume that you're a teacher. Okay, you're someone who loves teaching, or you're someone who's a trainer, or you're a communicator, or whatever it is. Let's presume that, right? And you see, like, my swadharma is to help young women. Okay, now can we add another layer to this, saying, can I also expand this to include young children? Why not? Okay, so if you're doing that, the possibilities are limitless. But then if you say, no, let me jump from here to there and there to there and there to there, then please ask yourself a simple question. Why am I getting into these multiple avenues of working? Is it really what I want to do? Or am I doing it because that is what is expected from me to do? Or is someone telling you, you know what, you're doing great work with women, you must also work with children, you must also work with geriatrics, you must also work with disturbed individuals? Is that what you want to do? If it is, then great, find the time to do it. But if it is because somebody is giving you those inputs, then I would say, think about it.
I have a question, Ram. There are
Please.
people, but particularly in this world, like I have someone who's conditioned not to trust. Probably they've always been let down, and someone who's conditioned not to trust anyone. How do they handle this entire thing, this issue? The conditioning. The conditioning itself is not to trust. So
Yeah. So
how
that,
do they handle
see,
these situations?
okay. Now, here are two things, Lakshmi. Most of us are, normal human beings who get up in the morning, who go and do what we need to do, and uh, accomplish whatever goals that we've set for ourselves, whatever tasks that we've set for ourselves, etc. But if there is someone who has some of these serious psychological issues, then I would very, very strongly recommend that you also go and meet a counselor and talk to someone, because then you need some amount of help on that. So if there are some of these serious challenges that you have, that you can't trust people, or you have a relationship kind of challenges, etc., then I think it's very, very important to go and seek professional help and find out what is it that is coming in your way of doing this. So yes, it's better to first sit and recognize. As I said, you need to do that analysis, saying what are some of these behaviors that are not enabling me and getting what I want in life. And if you see a certain pattern in that, then you must certainly talk to someone who can counsel you and say that, look, I think you need to figure out some answers for yourself. Okay, that you need to do, Lakshmi.
Ram, it's interesting you brought up this concept of seeking help and counsel. It's a lot of people have this perception that, I'm seeking, professional help, so it means that there's something wrong with me, or am I losing my mind, or, is there something wrong with it? I can't handle this, everybody else is able to handle it, but I'm not, why should I go and seek professional help? If I seek professional help, people are going to look at me very differently, like, this guy's office is a rocker, for all you know. But but people don't sometimes realize this. And how do you get people to understand that seeking professional help? And you rightly said that in the middle of the program. Seeking out somebody, and asking for help is a sign of strength. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, could you elaborate on that?
No, let me tell you this. The normal joke is that I know where I'm headed. Right? I'm driving my car. Yeah, I know how to get there. Okay, and you make a complete mess of yourself. You'll end up in the wrong turn. You'll get stuck in a jam, and you're supposed to reach someplace at 9 o'clock, and it's already 5 to 9, and you're nowhere close to your destination because you were obstinate, you were stubborn. You think that I know everything there is to know about in life. And I keep telling guys that, hey, hello, this is unfamiliar territory. Put on that Google map, yeah. Let Google auntie tell you where to go. She knows better than you. What is wrong with you? I mean, there is Google auntie, right? Or just unroll your window and ask that guy saying, boss, how do I get to the station from here? Yeah, I have a 9 o'clock train to catch. And that guy will tell you. You see, the whole point is that our conditioning, no, Sandeep. This is again a conditioning challenge. Right from childhood, we're told, क्या संदीप तेरे को इतना भी नहीं आता है? तू इतना भी नहीं जानता है? क्या बात कर रहे हो यार? Or if you ask, it is unfortunate. You see, these are what I call the implied negative strokes that you get in life.
Right.
That how many times should I explain this to you, yaar? So you get conditioned to thinking, nahi yaar, theek hai, chupchap baitho. My favorite example is that when the teacher explains something in school and people understand, and if you say no miss or no teacher or whatever you used to call her in school, then you get one tight slap on your face saying, how many times should I explain this to you? After that, whenever she says understand, you say, yeah, I do. I mean, I completely understand what you're saying, though you've not understood a single thing. So we've gone into this situation. But at the same time, Sandeep, there is a word of caution out here. Okay? In today's world, you heard of delegation and you heard of relegation. Now, don't pass the buck. Don't just keep passing the buck, and don't get into that comfort zone saying main kyun puchu. I'll tell you something interesting. Some years ago, we were working with a public sector giant, and this is really, really one of the largest public sector companies in this country. And a very senior guy there told my wife, who was leading the entire session, Dipti, he said, madam, you know what? I've got another 900 days to retire. If I don't do anything, I will get my salary and my pension and my gratuity when I retire. If I do something and there is a departmental inquiry, then all this will get blocked. So it is better for me not to do anything in life. So I
So true.
can't, so the point, it's a fact. But then, the point really is this, that you have to get out of that conditioning saying that don't think you're a weak, only a strong person will ask for help, Sandeep. Only a strong person. Okay? A weak person will continue to try and, live in that morass that is there and not get anything going. Hey, I've got Vivek who's saying something. What is Vivek saying, Sandeep? Let's pull that up.
Oh, that's a wonderful line. Wonderful.
Actually, what is it? Actually, Krishna was a partner in the journey of Arjuna, the Pandavas for that matter. It was so since they were on the righteous path. Absolutely. Lesson I take from this relationship is that your partner is the best person you can depend on, be it your life partner or long-term partner. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Beautiful.
Yeah. So there are a lot of people who are really enjoyed the program, and for what it's worth, I am going to pull those up. So yeah, yes,
I
Balaji,
see
thank you very
Mahadev
much.
Prasad, my old friend Mahadev Prasad, enlightening Ram. Thank you very much, Mahadev Prasad.
Yeah.
Any more
And
questions?
just pull up all the comments. Yeah, just pull up all the comments. Appreciating, not really
Yeah,
questions,
so I
but
think
appreciating.
what we'll do, Sandeep, is that maybe today on the Facebook page, where I think a lot of people have logged in from the Facebook page, we'll also try and see if we can answer some of these questions.
Yes, thank you, Ranjani, for that.
Ranjani,
Yeah,
each one of you are adding value. Oh, lovely! Thank you so much, Ranjani.
Thank you.
and she's
And
going on to say and to the program itself. Yeah.
yeah, and as a last point, can you bring the Vivek Prabhu's comment on Shalini? Because how can Vivek Prabhu be there without Shalini's comment, right, Vivek?
Yeah.
Shalini asks me to say Udare Atma Atmanam, else we will be stuck in the past forever. Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And Vivek, Shalu is always right. Remember that. Right. Okay.
Good.
Okay, that's
So-
it. I think we covered everything. Yep.
That's right.
So, shall we wrap it up with the line that says, okay, let's march towards being a Sthita Prajna in our life? And as wonderfully said, the thought, speech, action coherence that Ram was talking about, I think that's a wonderful way to begin our journey. Wonderful speech and wonderful session and a lot of takeaways. Thank you very much, Rotarian Ram. And thank you, Sandeep, for coming in. And you made it like really live and more relevant to the current entrepreneurs
Absolutely.
and the innovation side.
Thank you.
The connect you brought was fabulous. Fantastic. It was.
Thank you.
Thank you
So
very
tomorrow,
much.
Lakshmi, we are going to be talking about the power of thinking I can. So we've been on this journey. We talked about dharma and swadharma. And today we said, how do you overcome your conditioning challenges, right? By getting to be a Sthita Prajna. Tomorrow we will see how Krishna takes it up one more notch and says, look, how do you think I can? And how can you get your I can quotient working? How can you get your winning quotient up? Right? Thank you very much, everybody. Om Tat Sat. We close this.
Thank you.
Thank Krishna.
Thank you.